Have you ever wondered what it would be like to lose 30 to 40 pounds in the next 6 months? Maybe that's your goal for the year. Or maybe that's just something that you've had on your mind for the last 5 years. Maybe it's not 40 pounds, maybe it's 20, but you're just struggling to get that weight off. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And instead of focusing in on a lot of the same advice that, we've talked about before or that you're hearing all over social media and podcasts right now, I want to give you 5 unconventional tips that can really help outside of, your standard drink enough water, go on walks, etc. So we'll get into that today. And I think this could be really helpful no matter what your goal is. Some of these like mindset tips, the reframing tips I'll give you, and how to handle social events, setbacks, that sort of thing can no matter what your goal is, these could definitely benefit you. But we're specifically going to be talking about how to lose 40 pounds. This is something that I did in 2021. And I'll give you the kind of this step by step process here. So you're listening to the Low Carb Hustle, home of your $1,000,000 body method, where we help you get leaner and live longer. My name's Nate Palmer. I've been a coach since 2008, closing in on 17 years, and helped over 1,200 people level up their health and fitness. My mission is simple: to show you how to easily drop fat so you can feel lean, strong, and energetic. So if you're ready to learn 5 unconventional tips to drop 40 pounds in the next 6 months or so, well, stick around. Let's do this. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been trying to come up with podcast episodes that are going to not only deliver a lot of value, but also, get a lot of clicks. I'll be totally honest with you. So I was talking to my buddy about, podcast topics, and we had kind of come up with an idea around like, how do you prepare yourself mentally for workouts? How do you get the best results out of the practice that you're actually putting in? And I was like, yeah, that's good. Like, that's really good stuff. And it's stuff that people, I think, could benefit from hearing, but it's kind of boring. When I look at my podcast episodes and I look at the back end, number one, I get a lot of people listening who are not subscribing. So if you could just click that subscribe button, that would be like the best thing. It really helps me out, helps me bring better guests in, helps me with production value, that sort of thing. So if you could just subscribe, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple, that'd be amazing. But number two, all of the episodes that talk about like 6 steps to your best fast ever, 3 ways to get a 6-pack, 4 of the best core exercises, all those ones seem to do a lot better than the esoteric like mindset or psychology pieces. So I'm trying to work a little bit of that into it today. And I'll give you some of those tips that I think could be valuable for you, but I do want to give you 5 tips for how to lose 40 pounds, because I think this is going to be really valuable. So we're going to be breaking down some of those unconventional tips, mindset shifts that help me lose 40 pounds and then keep it off for good. So we're going to cover some uncommon strategies, some mental reprogramming, and maybe how to tackle weight loss a little differently this year. And, this matters because, maybe you're working out because you have a vanity goal, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to look a little better. You want to be able to take your shirt off at the beach, be really proud of how you look and how you show up. But weight loss isn't just about calories and workouts. It's about rewiring how you think, how you act, and how you live. Jocko Willink is the guy who wrote, he wrote lots of books. You got lots of books. They're all good. And I'll come up with the names of them here in a second. But he talks about discipline over freedom. And discipline over freedom, or I'm sorry, not discipline over freedom, discipline over motivation. And he says discipline is always going to be the thing that is going to get you to your goals a lot faster than waiting to be motivated. He wrote Extreme Ownership, The Dichotomy of Leadership. Those are like kind of his two big ones. Both fantastic if you haven't checked them out. But the thing that I think can even transcend this discipline, obviously that's better than motivation, but the thing that we need more than discipline is identity. We need an identity shift. And the only way that we create an identity shift, well, there's 2 main ways. One of them is like a come to Jesus moment where your doctor's like, you got cancer. You have to figure out a different way to live, or something along those lines. You go to a Tony Robbins event, you get really, really fired up. You see Angelina Jolie in a restaurant. She's like, I love the way you eat a salad. It's so sexy. And you're like, I love salads now. I'm a salad guy. Those are fewer and farther between, harder to engineer, sometimes detrimental. The other way, the one that we all have access to no matter what, is through consistent daily actions and creating an irrefutable body of proof that we are who we say we are. So when it comes down to it, we're never going to act outside of our identity. So if your identity is that you're the funny fat guy, that you clean up everyone's plates at restaurants, you might be able to do a 21-day program or a 6-week fat loss or whatever, but you're not going to be able to maintain that because your identity is still rooted in the fact that you eat a lot of food. So we need to change our identity. And I'm going to give you a couple different ways that you can do that and start thinking about that and some of the mental shifts that you can make in moments where it gets a little precarious. So, and I'll tell you kind of how some of my stories on that. So let's talk. The first tip I'm going to give you is reframe hunger, how to reframe your hunger. So understanding that hunger is okay, and more than okay, hunger can actually be beneficial to us. If you're on Instagram at any point during the January, you're going to see a lot of those like "stay hungry, hustle harder, I'll sleep when I'm dead" sort of memes that are like, okay, that's a little try hard. I get it. I see what you're saying, but like, you probably should sleep also during the time you're alive. It'll make your life a lot better. I get a little cynical when I see things like that. But hunger, like, outside of even just physical hunger for food and nutrients, there's that hunger is just like a yearning, a searching, something that we're driving towards. And that's an incredibly powerful emotion that we can harness to our advantage. So number one is that, especially men, when we were hungry back in the day, like paleo era, when you're hungry, we would use that as a sign to start going hunting, to like go find a beast, a woolly mammoth, and attack it with spears, and then bring it home and barbecue that bad boy up. So, from an evolutionary perspective, when you're hungry, you are going to be a better hunter. When you're hungry, you're going to be a better hunter. And what that comes along with is better hand-eye coordination, more mental acuity. You're on. You just have a little bit more like focus. You can see things better. You have a little bit better memory recall. You are able to store things from short-term to long-term memory better. So you get some neurological advantages from an evolutionary perspective when you're hungry. So rather than being like, I'm hungry, hunger equals bad, hunger equals need chips, start reframing like, I'm hungry right now. That means I can get more work done. I have more ability to put in some good work. I have a lot of energy. Now is the time to really dive deep and crush my work, do the thing that I need to do for the day. Hunger is also okay because it's a sign of progress. One of the things that I had to change my mindset around was going to bed hungry meant waking up leaner. And so when I was like, I finished dinner at 6:30, it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I could go for some food right now. Maybe just a couple of grapes, right? Grapes are natural. I'd be like, no, go to bed hungry, wake up leaner, go to bed hungry, wake up leaner. And that was one of the key things that I think really, really helped me, because I'm a notorious nighttime snacker. And that was one of the ways that I gained the weight in the first place, was just eating after dinner. Even if it was like having like a high protein meal or just some fruits or maybe a piece of cheese or something like that, it was just I was always munching between 8 and 9 o'clock at night. And that became completely detrimental. That really helped me gain that weight. So switching my mindset around that and being like, no, when I go to bed hungry, I wake up leaner, was a key for me to actually drop weight much faster. Also, like kind of the mindset around progress. Because sometimes we have there's weeks with no visible results. You don't see it in the mirror. You don't see it on the waistline. Your scale's up 2 pounds. What's going on? And sometimes we want to throw in the towel and just change everything up. Well, that didn't work. Maybe I should start training for a marathon. Maybe I should go on Ozempic. Maybe I should do the keto diet instead. But patience pays off here, because your body is not a math equation. It's not a 10 minus 7 equals 3. Your body is a very incredibly complex chemical laboratory where there's a variety of processes happening with our digestive system, how we are breaking down food, our endocrine system, our hormones. Because most people don't even realize that fat isn't even burned when you're doing cardio or you're at the gym. Fat's burned at night when your body is not digesting food anymore, and it has the ability to actually break down stored fat, recirculate it through your blood, and then you'll actually breathe out most of those fat molecules. So, not only do you need to be very hydrated to be able to burn fat, but you also need to have set yourself up in a way where you are not digesting food late at night. You're not eating late into the evening, that sort of thing. So don't stress about progress not necessarily being linear. It never is. But if you take a long enough viewpoint of it, if you look at it over the course of a year, you'll see the linear progress as you draw the line through all your dots. So I would say, personally, also check your weight either once a week or once a day. Don't do it that's what I would do. And then once a day is really just like giving yourself just like a routine and allowing you to just plot and see on a weekly basis how's it going. Because some days it's like, well, I'm down 2. Well, I'm back up 1.5. Well, now I'm down to another 1. Now I'm back up 3. And so you can start to see like the daily fluctuation, so it doesn't freak you out as much. Now, if you're someone who's going to get stressed out when you see the scale go back up, maybe go to that once a week, once every other week. But progress is not linear, and when you stop expecting it to be, that it makes it a big difference. I think sometimes just it's like when you get injured and you're like, is this permanent? Is my shoulder always going to be like this? And it's like, no, it's not. That'll heal up. You're just a little bit tight in the back. You need to release the chest muscles. We need to give yourself a week off. You're going to be fine. All of a sudden, you can take a deep breath because you're not freaking out about this. So I want to just let you off the hook here. So weight loss is a long game. Trust the process. Focus on consistent effort and not the immediate outcomes. You're going to feel a lot better. Second one is going to be unconventional habits. There's a couple unconventional things that I did when I was dropping weight that I thought were really powerful, even if you're not going to talk about them in the weight loss magazines. And by the way, if you want to see like the exact steps I took to drop this weight, I wrote about it in my book, The $1 Million Body Method. I wrote about my specific journey to drop 40 pounds, what that looked like, what I did, this daily steps. So if you want to look at like the actual nitty gritty of the walks, the water, the training, etc., go to getnatesbook.com and you can download that book for free. It's also on Amazon or Audible if you're more of a listen or a read person, but I'll send you either the Kindle version or the PDF version, depending on what you want. Number one, for me, the unconventional was chewing gum and staying hydrated. Whenever I got hungry, especially during the day, I would just pop a piece of gum. Right? So like I had something to do with my mouth. I was stopped thinking about it. That just made a big difference for me. So getting like a xylitol gum or sugar-free gum, that can just take the pressure off your mind to like always be like, well, we're going to go to get my next piece of food, or am I going to get some chips? I need something sweet. Maybe it's not optimal, and a lot of times like physique competitors who are trying to really get super shredded, they'll cut out artificial sugars towards the end of their prep cycle. But that wasn't me. I was just trying to get down to like 10% under 10% body fat. Not trying to step on stage or anything. So the gum really worked out well. And then the other thing was the electrolytes. So staying hydrated by having a lot of electrolytes during the day. So I would be having about 3 packets of Element during the day while I was cutting, just because the more hydrated I was, the better I felt, the better my energy was, the better my mental state was. And again, just like anytime I was hungry or thirsty or something like that, and I would drink a packet of Element, I felt way better. And I just felt like I could go another couple hours without eating. So that just made a big difference. A lot of people also experience something like if you cut out calories or you cut out carbohydrates pretty radically, you experience something called the keto flu. And a lot of times that's just a deficiency of electrolytes and minerals in your body. So if you can get rid of that headache, that annoying sensation, it just makes it much easier. The second unconventional thing I did was family focused movements. So I was doing a lot of walking, walked like every single day, no matter what. But sometimes I just, wouldn't do it in the morning. And then I would bring my kids on a walk with me. So maybe they're a little bit slower. Maybe I push them in the wagon, something like that. So I would either bring them on a walk or I put them into the back of like the little the trailer and then pull them on my bike. But just like bring my kids with me. That was a great motivator for me to show them like a fit lifestyle, and B, get them out of the house, get them out of their mom's hair, take them for a walk, take them to the park, do something like that. That way I'm getting my steps in, I'm getting my walk, I'm getting my movement, but I'm also having fun with the kids and bringing them outside and doing fun stuff. The third one was we'll call it heat training. And I had this came naturally to me because I live in Arizona and it's hot as balls here in the summer. So I would work out in the garage. I don't have an AC unit. I got a couple fans in there, but when it's 110, 115, you are sweating really, really good. And those first couple workouts during the summer are a pain. You're like lightheaded. You just like you feel weak. It's horrible, but your body starts acclimating to that heat, releasing those heat shock proteins. And I really think that not only did that help me burn more calories and acclimate to the weather, like, everyone else is always complaining about the weather in Arizona in the summer. But when I was working out in the garage and then I would go do other things, I just wasn't feeling the heat quite as much. My body was a lot more ready to handle higher temperatures. So I loved that heat training element and kind of working out in a hot environment. The second one was hill sprints. Again, this was warm weather in Arizona, and we were still out finding a hill, 40, 50 yards long, sprinting up, walking down backwards, sprinting up, walking down backwards, doing like 10 to 15 reps of that. And that was incredibly powerful. Sprints are one of the best ways to burn fat because anytime you're sprinting, your body doesn't know you're not running from a leopard. All it knows is that if we have more muscle and less body fat, we're going to be sprinting faster away from whatever danger they're running from, because obviously there's got to be something chasing him if he's running. So doing those hill sprints is great. And I love hill sprints way more than I like those sprints on the flat ground, because they force you to lean forward. They force you into a better posture. They force you to go slower. And you're also taking big steps up. Instead of landing on your heels, you're kind of landing on your toes. So it really can prevent injuries, especially if you haven't sprinted in a while. So take it slow. If it's your first time back in a while, do not go 100%. We'll look up to like 80, 85%, and then live to fight another day. So the key takeaway for me on this one, like unconventional habits, is just get creative with your approach, make it enjoyable for you, and then make it challenging. Like there's something weird about the heat training where it's not fun at all. It sucks so bad, but there's this weird Rocky 3 like training montage going through my head the entire time, and like, I don't remember which one it was, but like there's one with, I think it was Paul, the most recent Rocky movie, where they're training in like the Mojave Desert, and they're just like out in the sunlight, like walking on these long roads and dragging tires and boxing and stuff. And I like that so much because it just feels like you're sharpening your blade, and like every time you're doing a rep, a row, a pull up, whatever it is, in this like unforgiving environment, it just feels like you're getting a little bit sharper, a little bit harder. And you're kind of shaving off the edge. You're shaving off the edge. And I think that like mentally, if you can get sharper and harder that way, that's fantastic. But if also physically, right? If you want your body to be leaner, you're gotta have to get harder, right? You have to get like your body with more muscles and less fat is harder. Your body with more fat and less muscles is softer. So let's get hard physically, mentally. Let's get hard. So choose those things that are actually challenging, and figure out ways that you can make things more challenging, right? Don't give in to the idea that we need to be training all the time in an air-conditioned room that with a perfect weight set and everything is great and they have great ambient music and I have my headphones in and I have my Lululemon suit on. Like what are the ways that we can just be a little bit grittier and grimier when we train? Number 3 tip, and these are kind of like bullet point tips as we go, obviously, but is how do you handle social events? How do you handle setbacks? So for me, when I was going out to social events, I would always have a protein first mindset. So at parties or events, I would just prioritize protein, eat as much protein as I possibly could to stay full, prevent overindulging. And then if I did overeat or, have too much or eat a piece of cake or whatever, I would just tell myself that any extra calories were going to be fuel for my next workout. And that allowed me to push a little bit harder. So I would be like, all right, well, you ate that big meal yesterday. You had that cake, like better be putting up some PRs today. Let's go for another round. You didn't finish this one. Let's do 5 sets instead of 4. And then if I couldn't find good food at social events or whatever, go to happy hour and there's just like a bunch of fried food or whatever, I would just drink a bunch of water. And then when I would leave, I would go find a restaurant, like a fast food or Chipotle or something like that. And I would just get a bunch of protein. So like you can go to McDonald's and order 4 burger patties. They'll give you those. I go to Chipotle and I would order two servings of chicken. They'll give you that. So just kind of getting creative with where you're finding your protein at. So making sure you're not letting a single event derail you. You make sure you're adapting during the event, you're pivoting, and then move forward with it with intention, like when you're there. I also think that having that intention before you go, knowing what you're going to tolerate, not getting there and being like, well, I could have a piece of cake. Oh yeah, I could have a couple beers, go there knowing I'm going to drink, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to have cake, I'm not going to have cake. Because that way, if you plan it, I'd much rather have people plan their little indulgences than have them be just kind of random off the cuff. I deserve a little treat. That little treat culture is screwing up our mindsets and allowing us to feel like we always deserve to have something sweet or something nice, and in reality, if we don't plan for it, that's all we're doing is shooting ourselves in the foot, because now we feel like we're a liar. So that's very, very important, is not giving up on the things you said. So you wanted to eat really healthy, and you go and you don't eat healthy, like you're going to beat yourself up for that, even if you don't feel it. So make sure you have that plan in place and stick to your plan. Here's one that kind of ties into that is what I call the Wally effect. So this is tip number 4, the Wally effect. So this is kind of like how I visualize my future self. So when I'd go to parties or whatever, or just, even by myself, go to restaurants, something like that. I would imagine myself in that movie Wall-E. And in Wall-E, I don't know if you've seen it or if you remember, but basically everyone is in spaceships because the earth is trashed, and everyone is riding around on these floating little carts, drinking their sodas, just staring at screens. And then Wall-E disrupts the natural order of things, knocks this guy off. He can't even pick himself up off the ground, right? Just no strength whatsoever, no ability to move himself through space. And that dystopian future, where everyone is prioritizing comfort over health, like that fire me up, because I feel like we're not there yet, but we are closing in on that really, really quickly. The national obesity is way up. The amount of people who can do a single pull up is like 1%. It's very, very rare now to be in shape. And I think that if you can harness a little bit of that, like just getting upset, being a little angry about that, and then using that to push yourself more, that's going to pay off big time. So that's how I would fire myself up, is just thinking about the Wall-E effect. So using like a mental or a visual image as motivation to stay disciplined and avoid bad habits. Like I feel like, when people be like, hey, you want some French fries? We're going to order some for the table. I'd be like, no, I'm not eating those. Made me a lot of fun at parties, but I also got good results quickly. So that take that one or leave it. But I think that there's a lot there, just kind of putting a chip on your own shoulder about that and being like, I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm not going to fall into this pattern. Finding your kind of an emotional anchor, that future visualization, something that like ignites a little bit of passion or determination that keeps you on track in moments where it'd be easy to fall off. And then the last one comes back to intentionality. Something that I think is really critical is tracking your weights, tracking your progress, and then always going into your next session with some sort of agenda. I'm going to do a little bit better on this exercise. I'm going to walk a little bit farther this time. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go a little bit farther on my bike this time. Whatever that looks like, just going into your next practice, training session, whatever it is, with enough of an agenda that you feel like you have something to train. Like for right now, like really working on some jujitsu skills. And what I've noticed is that when I go to an open mat, which is basically like you go to a place where there's no structure and you can just kind of like wrestle with people for like 5 or 6 minute rounds and then switch partners. If I would just go and just show up, like it was fine, but I didn't really get any better. But if I would show up and I would say, okay, well, I'm working on this one move, or I'm going to try to do this one takedown, or try to land this like a type of choke or something like that, it gave me something to focus on, and I would see much more rapid improvement when I went in with intentionality. So that's why I think tracking your weights is so important, because if you go in and you're like, how much weight should I use again? What did I use last time? And you don't know. You don't have a good baseline. That's why we see so many people at the gym who have been bench pressing 135 pounds for 3 sets of 10 for the last 10 years. And they just have never gotten better because they don't track their weights and they don't incrementally increase and see progress. So keeping that top of mind is having that intentionality for all of the things you're doing, whether it's training session, whether it's meal planning for the week, bringing some intention to that. What are you trying to get out of this? And what would be a win for you? If you know those two things. I also like the question of like, what's going to get in the way? That's a question I ask my clients a lot. Like, amazing future, amazing goals. What's going to get in your way and derail your progress? Is it happy hours? Is it going out to eat? Is it going to your mom's house because you know she's always going to try to overload you with sweets and send you home with a bunch of cake? What are those problems that you're going to run into, and how can we plan proactively to avoid them? So just kind of as a conclusion to wrap this up, hunger is okay. Progress isn't linear. Unconventional habits matter, especially if they actually matter to you. And the idea that you need to go and train in the heat may not necessarily be the case, but for me, it represented the idea of sharpening the blade. And that was highly motivating for me. Setbacks can be fuel for your workouts. Visualization is key, and finding something that as like an emotional anchor to keep you on track when when it's like slow sledding or you are in a situation that can be a little bit precarious, is very, very important to keeping your mindset in the right spot. So the path to losing 40 pounds is not paved with perfection. It is built on consistency. It's built on being creative, and it's built on being resilient. Okay. So whatever you are, whatever you're doing, stay the course. These are the 5 tips that I would give you that are unconventional outside of just walking, water, training, fasting, etc. Which, by the way, still all good. And those are going to definitely be a part of this. But if you can get the mindset piece, the visualization piece, and then just start understanding yourself and how you want to shift your identity to appropriately inform who you are and how you're training, that is going to give you the best results that you're looking for. So if you're ready to lose weight, you want a tailored plan, book a call with me. You can just drop me a note on Instagram. I'd be happy to send you out a link. We can have a little bit of a chat, maybe clarify your goals a little bit. Or if you're struggling with your sleep, that's a big issue for you, then fix it with the 8 and 6 sleep program. That's your secret weapon for better recovery and fat loss. Just go to 8and6.com to grab that. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you on the other side.